You're listening to Agents of Information, broadcasting worldwide on the Rebooting Liberty Radio Network.
It is the most corrupt, degenerate, criminal government in American history.
And I'm sorry to say that the most brazen untruths always come from the left, just like most of the major plagiarism scandals come from the left, because they believe in narrative over fact.
The Second Amendment of our Bill of Rights is my concealed weapons permit. Period.
Anyone that's willing to stand next to me to fight the progressive left, I will be in that bunker.
The answer to 1984 is 1776.
If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
War.
Greetings, patriots, free thinkers, truth seekers, and all lovers of liberty. You're tuned in to the Agents of Information on the Rebooting Liberty Radio Network. Thank you for joining us here. A reminder, you can find us at live.rebootingliberty.com, and we're streaming at TuneIn Radio. You can get our replays through the website. We're on Spreaker, iTunes, Player FM, Stitcher, and other platforms. And the network streams 24/7 on TuneIn Radio. A lot's happened since our last show. Heck, a lot's happened in just the last few days. We're going to get right into the thick of it today, so make sure you stay tuned in for the whole thing. My name is Jared Day, and co-host Dan Lyman is here. Dan, how are you today, my friend?
Hey, how we doing, Jared? It's good to be back after the holidays. Like you said, the news is wilder than ever. We have just piles of monster stories that, even standing alone, each of them would be huge, but they're all coming at once, and it definitely portends to 2016 being a crazy year. We have the standoff in Oregon that is still going on. We have the rape epidemic across Europe. The world markets are in free fall right now. China's imploding their markets. They've had to stop trading twice in the last 4 days, and that's hitting everyone else. We have the refugee situation still going on. I say refugee in air quotes. They're really invaders. We have all sorts of stuff, and we'll dive right into it. I think we should kick off. We'll talk about this situation with the rapes in Germany. I think that's a good starting point. On New Year's Eve, across Germany now, it started off with a story just coming out of Cologne, but now it's across Germany in all the major cities. There were just thousands of Muslim, let's say refugee in air quotes again, men who took to the streets. They surrounded train stations. They fired off fireworks and explosives to create a riot-like atmosphere. One of the police officers on the scene in Cologne said it looked like a civil war, and those were his words. And in the chaos, they started sexually assaulting or gang raping dozens of German women, which is, Sweden's already been experiencing this. There are other countries in Europe that are having a rape epidemic, but now it's really exploding in Germany, as they've admitted over 1 million of these animalistic creatures into their country in the last year, and there's going to be more and more coming. And the mainstream machine has done an exceptional job of smothering this story, but it's made its way out. The truth is coming to light, as it always does. You had the mayor of Cologne actually chastising the women who were raped for being out at that hour. On New Year's Eve, keep that in mind. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people out that she chastised them for being alone or dressing the way they did, rather than addressing the root of the issue, which is these gangsters that are, they're crawling around the streets of Germany at this point. It's a dangerous situation, and it's really telling that Angela Merkel just today a story came out that Angela Merkel, and I quote, has said, "We must accept that immigrants are more criminal." So it's a little bit late for that lady. And this beast is washing across Europe, but they're trying to bring it here to the United States as well, and they are coming under the radar. One of the situations that I've been privy to now is in my own town up here in northern Idaho. We have a brand new mayor. He's probably in his early 40s, pretty young guy, and he is a ultra hardcore progressive. He had his first night on the job last night. He was sworn in, and he hadn't even been in office for more than a few minutes, and he's already stirring up massive issues in my town by putting forward a resolution, basically opening up the tent flap for the camel to stick its nose under. He put out a resolution affirming Sandpoint City Council's commitment to human rights and non-discrimination, and basically in couched terms saying that my town, my city, would be welcoming of these refugees if the federal government would like to put some here. And this has caused a huge issue here because where I live it's a nice area, but there is a lot of economic hardship here. We have 7.1% unemployment, which is more than the state average at this point. And people are wondering where's the funding going to come from? How are we going to put these here? From a financial aspect, but also the cultural ramifications, and then the safety issues, which are just so obvious. But this guy, he's like I said, he's barely been on the job. He put forward this resolution, and some of the language in it is so inflammatory, and that really got people mad. One of his lines, he's saying that the atmosphere of the town created thoughts of Nazi Germany, Japanese internment camps, McCarthyism, and the Ku Klux Klan come to mind, according to him. This is the way that these people think. They think that because we don't want what is happening to Europe, we don't want that in our towns. We must be racists, bigots, Nazis, white supremacists, whatever. It's just absurd thinking, and it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like you're going to have your hands full in that town in whatever term, 2 years or 4 years. It's probably not the last meeting you're going to have to go to and speak up.
No, definitely. We a lot of us turned out last night. I've been to other city council meetings where there's nothing on the agenda that anyone cares about, and if there's 10 people in there, I'm surprised. Last night, we had over 200 people show up. I would say the ratio of let's say, patriotic folks who wanted to protect the town and our way of life versus the liberal progressive mushheads that were supporting this resolution, we probably had a 4-to-1 odds on them. And about 35 of us took the opportunity to go speak to the council. We were each graciously given an entire minute on the clock to speak to them. So I used that opportunity to go up. I actually wasn't prepared, but I managed to get a few statistics off at them. And also, this new mayor of ours, he did his first Pledge of Allegiance as mayor with his hands behind his back. So I made sure to call him out on that as well, because I realized that most other people did not catch that. So, I think you have a little audio clip from last night, right?
Yeah, here it goes.
How are we doing, Council? My name is Dan Lyman. I'm new to the area. I live in Sandpoint. I moved here from California to basically escape the progressive open borders situation down there that is tearing that state apart. It's ridiculous. Just want to say real quick that I come from a family of Costa Rican immigrants. They came here legally. They've paid a lot of money in tax dollars. They're very ashamed of what's happening to our open border situation, to this country in general, and where their money is going. I just want to say real quick, first of all, the statistics that are out there that you're not talking about on your resolution. First of all, 80% of the migrants that are coming through Europe are not from Syria. They're from all over the place, North Africa and all over the Arab world. And 70 to 80% of them are military-aged males that should be back in their country defending it. I think it's ridiculous that you would even consider bringing them here. And also, I'd like to say that on New Year's Eve in Cologne, Germany, over 1,000 of these same immigrants that you want to bring here raped a collective group of German women. And at this point, they've arrested 15 of them, and 14 of them were fresh Syrian refugee migrants that had just arrived. I want to salute all of our service members and veterans in the crowd, and also point out that he did not cover his heart for the Pledge of Allegiance, the new mayor. Thank you, Dan.
Nicely done.
Thanks. That's very indicative of what kind of a person he is. I know someone else who disrespects the flag in front of veterans during the Pledge of Allegiance, and his name is Barack Hussein Obama. So looks like these two guys might be cut from the same cloth. They give the same vibe.
Yeah, they go to the same. They went to the same school of Alinsky.
balkanize the community, create tension where there wasn't any, and just accuse everyone of being bigots and racists, basically.
Yeah. Speaking of calling people names, those Ammon Bundy and those guys in Oregon are still up there. Now the town's getting irritated, and when at first they weren't, they were possibly halfway supporting him. Now they just want him gone. We were talking earlier about how the federal government, the BLM, is taking land in various regions because of whether it's minerals underground or there's shale oil in there. It's basically land grabs going all over, and Oregon is, I didn't know this before the other day, but I believe it's 3/4 of the people are either work for the federal government or are dependent on them for all of their health care and food and everything.
That the county that Burns, Oregon, is located in, where the Malheur, the wildlife preserve where these guys are holed up. Yeah, that county is basically, at this point, it's like an Indian reservation. That most of the people there are totally dependent on the government, and a lot of them are probably scared about pissing off the government or the BLM because so much of their livelihood is derived from federal funding, and it's really a shame. It's unfortunate. They used to be one of the most prosperous counties in Oregon at a time, according to the locals. So you see what happens when government comes in and they do their thing. They wreck shop, they destroy, and then they create dependency.
Yeah. They can function best for themselves when there's dependence all around them. When people are dependent on them, they can impose. Basically, now it's soft tyranny. Some people say, tyranny. No, we don't know what tyranny is. But when you look at the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, it can be characterized as soft tyranny at this point. We're headed,
without a question. And we are over the cliff. We're not headed over the cliff. We're over the cliff. The rule of law means almost nothing. We have the lawless despot in the White House who just gets worse and worse by the day. He clearly, the Constitution to him is garlic to a vampire. It's kryptonite to him. He hates it. He'll do everything he can to destroy it and relish it at the same time, like the communist Islamist radical that he is. And a lot of people over the years have speculated, like the Jerome Corsi's out there and the Michael Savages, have wondered out loud or even put forth some evidence that Obama is indeed a radical Islamist, not just an Islamist sympathizer. We all know that. That's plain to see. But that he actually is a practicing radical Muslim. And in the last week, Alex Jones on air has kind of put out a warning message. He's been getting multiple confirmations from inside high sources, face-to-face to him, have told him that Obama prays 5 times to Mecca from the White House every day, and that he is indeed a radical Salafist, Wahhabist Muslim, and that's who's running our country. And I think we've all known that deep down in our hearts. But to hear a little more confirmation about that, it's scary.
Yeah. Well, here, I'm going to play this clip of Alex Jones talking about that.
The future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam.
I was set to shoot a video this morning on the fact that we have so many contacts inside the Secret Service. And the reason the agency's quoting scandal, and the reason they're always using a few bad apples to demonize it, is because they know how bad Obama is. And it's not just Bongino, the former head of Obama's foreign details we've interviewed. And he didn't say anything secret. He just said it's worse than I say on air. It's worse than you know, Alex. Over the years, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of Secret Service people and talk to other prominent people that know him. And ladies and gentlemen, I can now report to you that it's true that I was wrong in the past when I said that this was a rumor and a conspiracy theory. It is true. President Obama is a radical Muslim and actually does basically pray to Mecca 5 times a day inside the White House. I'm not against Muslims in general, but whether it's a PSYOP or whatever, the Secret Service are saying, no, he is a radical Muslim. He is in there.
Wow. Dan Bongino is legit. Coming from him, he's a patriot, and he is completely a legitimate source for that. And that's so many people have been saying that over the last, even while he was running before 2008, that he's a Muslim, and it's not surprising at all that we're getting actual confirmation of that now.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence that golden ring he wears, it's not a wedding ring, that it's actually inscribed with the first half of the Shahada. It says I think it's something to the effect of, there is no God but Allah. Something to that effect. And I've looked back on that, and it does seem there's a lot of evidence that would indicate that, that's the case. It's just amazing to me that this mainstream media, the lengths that they go to protect these people, that's something that any good investigative reporter could have dug up very easily. And they probably all know this stuff.
Of course they do.
But they choose to hide it. And of course, if it's all part of the government media complex, it needs to be imploded as soon as possible. And we're starting to see some cracks.
Yeah, there is cracks. And, the FBI is fed up. They're investigating stuff, and there'll be more coming out soon about Hillary. But back to Hussein Obama. When at the beginning of his administration, the first term, there at one point there was 5 or 6 people in his administration that had a husband or a brother or sister or some sort of relative working for the 3 alphabet networks. And it just, collectively the media, including Fox News to an extent, is just a scandal condom. They just they make Hussein Obama like Teflon. Just everything rolls off of him. It's crazy. And when he made that speech the other day about his executive orders on expanding background checks and forcing private sales to have a federal firearms license to even sell a gun to your friend, you have to get a $500 license. That's what he's planning on doing. Shedding fake tears about Sandy Hook, and I went back and I watched the video in slow motion, and he went from having the tear, and he's just snapped up to start talking about the policy and what he was going to do. There are some people saying that he forced himself to cry with menthol or something. Did you see anything about that today?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I mean it's clear that those were not real tears. I mean, anyone who believes that those are real tears, really you need some help. But that's there's probably plenty of the sheep out there that buy into that. That's insanity. But
yeah, Hollywood gives classes.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah, Hollywood has a lot of friends in Hollywood, and they actually have classes on how to force yourself to cry if you're in Hollywood, if you're an actor. So maybe he got some tips on that. But
I would imagine so.
One thing about him that he's done really well, he's an excellent gun salesman. He's going to go down in history as the top salesman for guns. In 2015, there was record background checks. On Black Friday, there was 185,000 background checks on that one day. And
wow. Just
in December, there were 3.3 million background checks. Now, let me tell you something. I was at Cabela's the other day. We were going to buy something, and we were going to, you got to take a number, but we couldn't even get to the counter. It was shoulder to shoulder, people stocking up with stacks of ammo. You could not. We had to wait an hour to get to a gun salesman. So, that's just indicative of all the numbers that we're reading about. And, the media is not going to talk about much of it because, it's counter to the agenda. But the gun ownership is saving lives and preventing crime. And the deaths are such a small. You had the statistics, didn't you, in front of you earlier?
For which?
For the death rate compared to, say, suicide.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So gun deaths in the United States. There was a meme going around. I think it might have been after Paris or San Bernardino, but it was one of those progressive like a Media Matters type of meme, and it was all about how many gun deaths there are in the United States and so many more than terrorist attacks. The reality is something like 32,000 gun deaths on average per year in the United States, or in the most recent year that it was counted. 2/3 of those are suicides. So we can sweep those right off the table. Another chunk of those are legitimate self-defense incidents or incidents with police officers being forced to use deadly force. So we'll sweep those off the table. And then a whole nother pile of the ones that are remaining are gang-related. And that's their choice. So we'll sweep that off the table as well. What you're left with is maybe a few thousand homicides by way of the gun. And in a country of 350 to 380 million people with over 200 to 300 million guns in circulation, I mean, those are pretty good odds. That's a pretty rare way to die in the United States. And you balance that against the amount of crime, violent crime, homicide that guns prevent. And then factor in on top of that when nations are disarmed, in many cases, millions of people die. So having the guns here far outweighs not having them here. That's for sure.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned getting them taken away. Well, first of all, Paris, even some of the cops aren't allowed to be armed. From Charlie Hebdo, cops are running around with probably a stick or something. But they're going down that route big time in Europe, some of the countries in Europe. And throughout history, starting in the early 1900s, I'm just going to rattle off some countries, and the amount of millions is amazing. In Turkey, in 1911, 1.5 million Armenians were disarmed and killed later. And in the Soviet Union, 20 million were disarmed and exterminated. Germany, 1938, starting in 1938. And obviously the Jews were exterminated, but all of Germany was disarmed in that 6-year period. 13 million people. China, 1935 to 1948, 20 million disarmed, exterminated. Guatemala, 1964 to 1981, 100,000 Mayan Indians were killed. Uganda, 1970 to 1979, 300,000 Christians were disarmed in Uganda, killed. Cambodia in 1956, and 1 million. And in Cambodia, these were educated people that were disarmed, rounded up, and exterminated. And that's that tops 50 million people, and that's a cycle of history that any society that there was intelligence among the people, and it's not a lack of intelligence with the government. They're trying to do this, so the people have to stop that from happening. And we're in pretty good shape now, but they're trying, and they're going to try and use mental illness to, if a family member is mentally ill, then the parent gets the gun taken away. All these tactics. They had the veterans sign releases years ago that they had PTSD so they could get benefits. they're, what is it, 22 million veterans? It's just, you would think that you look at the cycle of history with countries that have disarmed the citizenry, they get slaughtered. Why don't people realize that here? I mean, a lot of people do that we talk to, but half the country voted for Obama, so half the people probably figure that's crazy that we would be killed by our own government. But I think it's legitimate.
We can look directly to the education system, the indoctrination stations all over the country where kids are going in. They're not being taught history. U.S. history is basically not even being taught in the schools anymore. And then they manipulate the history that they do teach to a degree. They rely so much on lies, misinformation, disinformation. I mean, even from Obama fake crying, and then in his speech, and I quote, "A violent felon can buy a gun over the internet with no background check, no question."
That's a lie. It's a lie.
The White House tweeted that same statement. Obviously, they got slaughtered. That is a bald-faced lie. I live in one of the most gun-friendly states in the country. You can buy whatever you want, basically. And when I order in from the internet, it has to go to a FFL, a gun store with an FFL, and then you have to go in and fill out a little form, and then they verify your information off a computer to make sure that you're not a felon. So it's a bald-faced lie,
yep.
And they rely on the ignorance of the sheep to push their agenda.
They do, and they also lie. They make the hyperbole about quote-unquote assault weapons. Now, Barack Hussein Obama says that people armed with military-style automatic weapons, which the sheep eat that right up. They don't know the difference between a semi-auto AR that we can get in any gun store and automatic weapons where you have to pay $15,000 and go through a year of paperwork and everything to own an automatic weapon. There's not many of them in the country. But to the average sheep, they're thinking that people are running around with like the same rifles that our GIs carry into battle,
Yeah, these people are so ignorant. I was watching a clip. It was actually Steven Crowder rebutting that guy over at Young Turks. I can't even say his name, Chunk or Chank or something like that. And this guy is going off on a tangent about the Second Amendment, clearly has no idea what he's talking about. And he actually he was talking about assault weapons. He called them AR-17s. They don't even know what the most basic guns are called. They're so clueless about it. And what a lot of these people that are crying for gun control and saying that only the military and the police should have guns are the same people that slander the military and the police for being murderers and the militarization of police, complaining about that. So they can't seem to decide whether or not the police should be disarmed or they should be the only ones with arms. They're so all over the place. They don't understand really how the circle of life works in the United States.
The stupid is strong with those people. The Kool-Aid flows freely.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, since we're talking about guns, it made me think that we got a Schmendrick of the week. Basically from the media or from Hollywood. We'll just pick one once in a while. And the one that really sticks out this week is Montel Williams with his tweeting about the feds just need to shoot to kill in Oregon. The guys that are standing there next to an empty building, just standing there. And when Ferguson was burning to the ground, he was rooting on the George Soros's paid thugs to destroy the city. He just reeks of hypocrisy, and I think he's just trying to get attention. He said that he would take up arms and attack the feds if they stopped Muslim immigration, if they paused it, like Trump said he would do. Again, another double standard. He just needs to retreat into wherever he goes and stop, because he's making an ass of himself.
Obscurity. The guy is such a hypocrite. He's such an attention whore. He'll say whatever whatever is required to be inflammatory. And for somebody that lauds himself so much for being a veteran, the fact that he would call on the National Guard of the federal government to take up arms and fire on his fellow veterans who are upholding their oath, whether we agree with the approach or not. They are nonviolent. They are peaceful at this point, and they are doing in many ways what their oath requires them to do, and that's to protect the Constitution. So for this coward to call for his fellow veterans to be murdered by the federal government and then give the kid gloves treatment to Ferguson and Baltimore and all those punks that were destroying their cities, he was so soft on them and really supporting them as, civil rights activists, and they're just doing the right thing and fighting back against the man. No, they were not. They were burning down their cities and assaulting and
getting
setting
paid,
fires.
Getting paid for it.
Yeah, and getting paid for it. I wouldn't be surprised if Montel gets a check from George Soros himself. He's an agent provocateur, and I think he's an agent of the state. He's part of the disinformation, balkanization of society in the United States. He's an agent of that.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy. So we're in this situation, and to me, it seems like if we just elect another president, even if it's a Republican, it's just going to keep going on because it's a do-nothing Congress. They said once they get the Senate, then they'll be able to do. They're not doing anything. It just seems like something big has to happen to really shake things up, to turn it around and get on a different path. The whole, many people think there's no hope at all, and I get like that too. But I think that, and I'm not a supporter of Trump, but I think he's doing that for a lot of people. I'm a Cruz supporter, but I would vote for Trump in a second if he had the nomination. Of course, I think he's galvanized a whole across. It goes across economic, racial, everything. He's just, it's all people that love America and they want it better. It doesn't matter where they come from. So I know I saw you wearing that "Make America Great Again" hat in the video. So
I'm a big supporter of Trump. Everything that I learn about him on a daily basis, about the campaign, about his motives, his team that surrounds him, and then his own actions and words just make me more and more excited. Because like you said, just electing another Republican, it really is not going to mean much, especially if it's one of these establishment guys like Rubio or Bush or Christie or whatever. They're just going to keep on with the status quo. They are beholden to their donors and their handlers. Trump is the only one who's not, and I understand why some people are wary of Trump. I've been following his campaign since he even launched the exploratory committee. He gets better and better and better. And the more I learn about the inside baseball, what's going on in that campaign, makes me more and more excited. But 2016 is going to be a definitive year for the United States, because I foresee one of a couple different scenarios playing out, and none of them are really that great. But ultimately, like you said, something big has to happen for us to, let's say, wreck the system and rebuild it along the more constitutional respect for the law. We got to get all these bums out of office. Congress is a joke. They're all criminals for the most part. I mean, maybe there's a couple of good guys or girls in there, but they're all a joke. And then all of these alphabet agencies, the BLM, the DHS, the TSA, the CIA, they're all dangerous. They're all anti-American in their what they're doing, their actions. They're wrecking the Constitution and our rights. So this year, I see one of a couple things happening. Right now, you got Hillary's going down the toilet. She is on the verge of an indictment. There's a lot of indicators that might be around the corner. That's something that Jerome Corsi called a month or two ago, and I didn't really believe him, but he said that he believed in 2016 that Hillary would be indicted for one of many different crimes that she's committed, or all of them. And that seems to be possible. Also, there's a lot of talk about her health now. That bathroom break she took in the middle of the Democratic debate may not have been what they say it was. They say she's having a lot of health issues, brain problems. She's hypothyroid. So it's not very Christian of me to say, but I would really hope for physical incapacitation for that wench, because that would be one less psychopath for us to have to keep our eyes on. So I do believe if that happens, and things are looking really good for Trump, that Obama's going to pull some shenanigans and try to stay in the White House. I think that's ultimately what's going to happen, because maybe Hillary makes it all the way. I don't know. Then the globalists can, do the power transfer between Obama and Hillary. But if things aren't looking good for her, I can't imagine them relinquishing their control over the White House. I can't imagine Obama going out peacefully. I think he's going to try some shenanigans between now and then. And also, if Trump gets too big or too powerful or too influential, I mean, there's concerns about his safety. Even his own Secret Service is on high alert for him at all times. He's in a dangerous situation.
He is. He is in a very dangerous situation. But anybody that's going to come in and shake things up enough that they can actually get us on a different path. I mean, I don't think there's revolution talk is kind of a real revolution. I just don't see it happening. I just don't see blood in the streets, but I think things need to get screwed up enough that the people are able to take control of the government again through Article 5, get rid of, I mean, it sounds impossible, but the way the Constitution is, it gives us that power to reign in government. It's just, I don't think enough people even know anything about it to even care, or maybe they don't even care. How else are we going to fix? Congress is not going to fix the problems that we have. The next president can do a lot, but I don't know. I get really hopeless, but I have to admit, Trump's he does make me hopeful sometimes, and I would have no problem voting for him. Because I think some of his ideas that people say are crazy, I think he could do a few of them at least,
I think he's well proven that he knows how to build teams. He knows how to get things done, and that's what we need. We need an executive to run this country, because at this point, it is a corporation. There are many arguments to say that it actually it has been incorporated, but in general, the country needs to be run like a business, and we need a businessman doing that. We don't need some slick politician who says all the right things all the right way. We're tired of those people. Mm-hmm. They're phonies. They're not real. We need men like Trump, and Greg Abbott is another person that makes me very excited about what's going on, because, like you said, the states are going to have to take the reins and stand up to this massive federal government. And the first state that I would think is going to do that is going to be Texas. And
absolutely.
Greg Abbott has put out, he put out the Molon Labe tweet when Obama's talking about, coming for the guns. He has exhibited himself to be a man of fortitude and strong moral character. And what I think is really going to have to happen, if the states are going to rise up, it's going to have to be a state like Texas with the resources and the power to actually do so. Obviously, that's going to send the feds into a tailspin and things will get crazy. But if they can lead the way, there are other parts of the country, other states that I think would follow suit. Yeah. I have a representative here in North Idaho that is talking about independence for North Idaho, and we're kind of trying to figure out what that would exactly mean. But it first of all means disconnecting from the federal funding and the clause that they put into our states. So I think if one state starts leading the way, others will follow suit. There are a lot of people out there that are unhappy with what's going on. No, we do not want to see any bloodshed. That would be terrible. But I think people are preparing to take a stand at this point, because they know this is do or die.
I think that the gun sales through the roof isn't just because it's partly because people actually think they have to defend themselves from the government. And that's what the Second Amendment is for. That's what it's written for. That's what that's its purpose. And I really believe that the sheriffs of this country would be the backbone of any resistance, because they have done so much for not just their counties but their states. The way Sheriff Clark now he's got a radio show. He fills in for Sean Hannity too, and he is a role model for so many youth in the country. And I just think that the sheriffs, my own sheriff over the years, they've done so much, and I think that they're going to be the backbone of any resistance, more than the police departments,
Definitely. And your sheriff is Sheriff Arpaio, correct?
Yeah.
He's a great man. He was really the first sheriff to step on the scene nationally, challenging the birth certificate and challenging the immigration. He's a brave man. We need more like him. Another thing that someone has brought up to me recently, actually a lot of people have been bringing it up to me, is, I'm 32 years old. I'm definitely in the minority for people my age in terms of how I feel about where things are, and, just generally not being an indoctrinated liberal. And the concern of older folks like the Joe Arpaios out there and people his age is that there aren't enough young people involved in the cause, and that the older folks are getting older, and they're concerned that if once they start to fade away or die off, that there will just not even be enough patriots in this country to hold the line. So that's another reason things need to happen sooner than later. We need to take a stand and put an end to PC culture that is wrecking the country. It's wrecking the entire Western world.
Yeah.
I mean, you have women getting raped in Europe, but they won't even go public with it because they're worried about offending their rapist. I mean, this is stories that are coming out. You have a family here. This one just came out today. A family in Sweden who decided to take their virtue signaling and go, make it for real. They decided to host a 36-year-old Eritrean Muslim immigrant, and while they were out, the immigrant took their 7-year-old daughter into the bathroom and slit her throat. And he's not even getting a murder charge, and Eritrea won't take him back. So Sweden stuck with him, and he got convicted of manslaughter. So this is where PC culture, it is actually killing people and wrecking our way of life.
Yeah, and we're following the West is going to be history unless our country does something, because we just following Europe's footsteps. And when you said, what is the cure for this for the massive rampant virus of cultural Marxism, and the resultant political correctness? It is not curable when we're pumping the children in the schools full of nonsense, and they're getting taught false climate stuff that's not even from their government. My kids' books, one of them had the source was a government agency. It was basically a lobbying group for climate change, and that's where they were using as a source to learn about, climate change. So that's indoctrination, and that's just one small example. How does a PC virus, because that's what we have, it's a sickness, it's a cancer on our society. How can that be solved? I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the schools are really where that's ground zero. That's the progressives figured that out over 100 years ago, and they totally infiltrated and took the whole thing over. I heard a story out of a school recently. The teacher had his students watching Christmas, holiday-themed movies like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and was asking them to basically watch and interpret these holiday films through the lens of a Marxist, and then also through the lens paradigm of a feminist, and write about it. The pollution is disgusting. And then in the state next to me, Washington, they're starting to bring in the whole transgender bathroom thing, which is another sick perversion. That's dangerous. It's irresponsible. It's really just perverse. So they use the schools really to shape these model citizens as they come out into the world.
In Arizona, there was a some posters put out for the public schools that had the Second Amendment on them. I don't recall what they did to change it, but it was changed in a way that totally perverted it. And these posters were hanging in the schools, and people made a large protest about that, and finally they took them out, and they weren't allowed to use that company anymore for school stuff. Then in another case, down in Tucson, one of the school districts took $300 and something thousand in exchange for teaching one of the Islamic languages in the elementary school or middle school.
Oh, the whole Islamic indoctrination thing in the schools is ridiculous at this point. I remember a story from last year. It was they had all the kids recite the Pledge of Allegiance in Arabic, and they actually changed "One Nation Under God" to "One Nation Under Allah" because it was in Arabic. And that's just one example, but they have these kids doing calligraphy projects where they're writing out the Shahada in calligraphy. The perversion and the sneakiness of these regressive teachers in the education system is sickening.
Yeah, we have our kids in a charter school, and it's they don't go where the other schools go. They don't go as far. So I'm very thankful that my kids are in that school, and we monitor it and we see what they're doing. And when Common Core first was implemented, it wasn't good. They were doing what they were supposed to do by Common Core's dictate. They were asking my kids what weapons we had in the home. How often do you go to church? Do your parents yell? That was the school asking the kids that, and I thought that was way, way over the line, and that was actually part of Common Core. So I'm sure every parent is doing this, watching what's going on, because Common Core is pretty well known now. When it was first implemented, most parents did not even know what it was.
Yes, you had Common Core English and Mathematics. Obviously, those are the first two that they've rolled in. But the next one coming in, and I believe either Idaho has already signed on for it. Yeah, science, exactly. That's really where they're going to start doing a lot of damage because, like you said, it'll all be global warming garbage. It'll be just propaganda. That's one thing that is keeping so many people in the dark is the manipulation of science at this point. People don't know up from down, down from up. They don't know cool from warm. You got everything being blamed on global warming, which eventually...
Terrorism.
Terrorism being blamed on global warming. But what it does is it demonizes the human race. So we're supposed to feel bad about, who we are and what we're doing in terms of making progress. So I love these people who call themselves progressives. They are as regressive as it comes.
The regressive left. Well, I don't even know why we're worried about any of this, Dan, because I think it's like 19 or 20 days and we're all going to be dead. The Earth is going to, according to Al Gore, his countdown is coming to the end and we're all going to be dead. He said
we're going to float away in massive floods and all of our cities will be underwater. And he'll be in his jet flying to his private island or whatever.
Yeah, I think he called that one wrong. He did cash in on it, though.
Oh, he sure did. He stuffed his fat face.
Yeah, and then... Well, Dan, we are to the end of the show. It was great talking to you, and I appreciate everyone listening. Where can people find you at, Dan?
Yeah, so on Twitter, you can find me at Citizen Analyst. On Facebook, you can find me at Citizen Analyst. And I also write for the Western Free Press and the Readout News. So you can find my articles there. And just want to thank everyone for listening as well, and hope they had good holidays and a good Christmas, and get ready for a pivotal year in the United States.
Absolutely. You can find me at rebootingliberty.com website and Twitter at JaredDayAZ. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you'll join us next time. Remember, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Stay vigilant, seek the truth, and never be silent. May God bless America.